Hello Warriors, I'm King Link and I'm here to review Wargroove. Let me get this out of the way. I did write to Chucklefish asking for a copy of Wargroove. I was interested in the game. I was probably going to pick it up myself no matter what, as it looks like one of my favorite franchises, Advance Wars, and we'll talk about that a bit. But Chucklefish ended up giving me a copy. Now, I greatly appreciate that review copy. It hasn't changed my opinions on the game, but I do want to mention the review copy so you can best judge my reviews, and I want to thank my subscribers because without them, again, there'd be no reason for me to get that copy. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's talk about why I was interested in Wargroove. Now, I'm a strategy fan, especially turn-based tactical games. Chess, XCOM, Advance Wars, and Fire Emblem are some of my favorite franchises. So when I heard someone was making a game similar to Advance Wars, I knew I had to check the game out. Well, honestly, actually, first I saw the game, and instantly I knew this game was going to be similar to Advance Wars just from the art style. The fact it is, after looking a little further, made me extremely excited. Now, just to be clear, I am going to be referring to this game as Advance Wars in a few places, maybe Fire Emblem. These are not negative comparisons. Advance Wars is a great series that Nintendo hasn't made in a while, and that's on them. Wargroove has taken up that mantle, made a similar game, and for that I really do thank Chucklefish for continuing this type of game. The fact is, Wargroove is available on Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC currently. PS4 will hopefully be right around the corner, and the fact that it's multi-platform is a huge improvement. I always appreciate that. Graphics here are actually pretty great. I love the sprite-based gameplay, the design and the art is really good, though I do want to say sometimes similar units do look different between the factions, and yeah, it kind of stinks. 3 factions might have knights on horse, 1 faction has a knight on a fluffalo, but they're functionally the same unit, it's just a different art design. 3 units have warriors, 1 unit has a skeleton, and so on down the list. Like, every so often there's a different looking unit that's functionally the same. Alright, with that said though, at the same time, look at the art, enjoy it, it's really solid, the levels are beautiful and well designed, and there's a lot right with this look, with very minor problems is what I'm bringing up. Now I'm going to be using the best character, which is the best dog, Caesar. He's not my favorite character for gameplay, but he's a dog who controls an army. That's hilarious. All hail General Pooch. Moving on to the story though, I'm a bit mixed. On one hand, Wargroove really doesn't have the best story. It's a bit cookie cutter, you know, a queen is being chased out of her kingdom by an enemy force, ending up fighting no matter where she turns, and ultimately, yeah, there's a good ending, but not a great story. And the other side of this, though, is it's a tactics game. So, I mean, tactics games don't really have great stories because of how slow the gameplay is, and the fact is, I get it. If Wargroove tried to have more story, I probably wouldn't like it. In fact, they do have more story in the middle of one mission, and I think it might be my least favorite missions just because I don't like how it breaks up the game. There are a lot of characters in Wargroove, and the characters do get well defined, mostly by doing side missions, though. Almost every character gets at least one side mission, and I call those out because they're well done and help flesh out the factions, the characters, and the interactions between them. It's just that the main story is going to be a bit weak here, but I don't know how they could have done more without really taking something special away. Though I do have to say one more thing. You know, the final mission of the game, the epilogue of the story, is locked. Now, you have to end up beating about half the game, earning about 100 out of 200 stars, which you earn through different ways. But until then, you can't see that final mission unless you do YouTube. The game does have a cliffhanger before that, and I get the idea to give a final mission, but it's kind of annoying that it holds back the ending of the story with that lock. And it will take quite a bit to get 100 stars. I got about 50 of them, around 30 hours, but maybe I'm not the fastest player. But really, a game like Wargroove is about playing it. It's a tactical game like chess, and really check the screen, you can see how Advance Wars this is. You're going to move units, attack enemies, watch out for attack radiuses, maneuver forces, and it does a lot more with this. It uses a lot of fantasy elements like Fire Emblem, And again, neither comparison, Fire Emblem or Advance Wars, is bad. I love all these series, and Wargroove has worked its way into that lineup. So this is a 2D tile-based game, and it's all about those tactical moves. If it looks confusing or it looks slow, it can be, but trust me when I say if you play through the story, it will teach its rules and systems to you. So the stuff like the soldiers and dog units are actually chewed up by the knight units on horseback. The pikemen, though, will demolish a knight unit, and so on down the line. There's 20 different units in the game, and there's actually a matrix of who does what damage to which enemies. So it actually will allow you to use a tactical or strategic look at the game rather than just guessing these matchups or having to remember some rock, paper, scissors triangles. There are two big changes to the formula here, though. There's no real randomness, well, almost none. I do notice once in a while that when I get a 100% hit to kill an enemy, sometimes they survive with 1 life. Sometimes it also happens on defense as well, but all attacks will 100% hit and does full damage for the most part. I'm pretty sure about that. Now, the first issue is it's on the tactical side. There are critical attacks, and I'm almost definitely pulling some off here. There's no visual indicator, sadly, a little minor issue I have with the game, but having 2 pikemen next to each other makes both of those pikemen critical attack. If a horse runs 6 spaces to get to a unit to attack them, he gets a critical attack. If there's a dog next to an enemy and another dog runs up, that's their critical attack trigger. Each unit has their own rules about what causes a critical attack, and it's an important way to do extra damage to really help your army out. Now, the second big thing is there's also commanders. Now, commanders don't officially crit, but they don't need to. They're the strongest units in the game, strong attack, strong defense, and it's a good thing because if they die, you lose the game instantly. Similarly, if your HQ gets smashed, you will also lose. The thing that makes commanders different, though, is they have this groove system, and thus we have Wargroove. It seems to want to take this idea to a musical eventuality, but honestly, Wargroove doesn't spend the time to really explain why it's Wargroove other than calling a special move a groove. But each commander has their own groove. Now, Mercia, the queen of the story, heals nearby friendly units. Caesar, the character I'm playing as, my dog, is inspiring neighbors to do a second action. Basically, everyone takes a turn, he moves in between them, uses his ability, and everyone next door to him gets 1 extra action that turn. And there's a lot of different grooves between all the characters. In fact, I think every character has a unique one. I don't think there's any duplicates here. Now, this is the only way that each commander or faction has any difference. And it's a shame because you have 4 or 5 different armies in the game, but they all work about the same. Now, I get the problem with having to balance the game with 4 different armies, but I would have loved to see a little more difference between them. Let's talk about the game modes. I know I've been going on for a bit of time, but I do want to get through all of this. The story mode is what you'd expect. I think there's about 20 main missions. There's about 15 bonus missions. Decent story, like I said. Long missions too, but it takes you through almost a tutorial for the game as well. Now, this takes about an hour to 90 minutes per mission for the later missions, but they're good sized chunks. Arcade mode is unlocked after the first act, and it's actually played on mirror maps. You're going to be fighting a set lineup of commanders based on which character you're playing as. Each character gets their own list, and it's a way to beat all 5 commanders in a row without losing a single match. It's actually a really great way to test your skills. And finally, for single player, there's puzzle mode, which gives you a set army, set layout, and a single turn to win the map, either destroying the HQ or the commander. There's usually only 1 or 2 ways to beat each map, but it's simple but very challenging. This is actually really is a great addition to the game as well. Excellent puzzle system. There's a good multiplayer system here. You have local multiplayer if you want to play face-to-face. You have online multiplayer if you want to play other opponents. Human opponents are definitely going to be a little more challenging than the AI, at least when they know how to challenge you or which matchups to play. There's actually also ways to upload your maps and share them. Now, I don't like to make my own maps that much, but I love looking at other people's maps. The 2 big ones that I played was a dating sim campaign for Caesar with its own cutscenes and story. You can make an entire campaign there. People are working on remaking Advance Wars, but you can do your own cutscenes and everything, so there's a lot you can do there. And then I also played a single map, a haunted house, with its own rule system and a unique hero. There's a lot of stuff that you can also do. I've seen one person do a shogi style system where when you kill an enemy, you get their unit on your side of the board, and so on. So really, there's a lot of potential in the map creation. I really hope Chucklefish and the community keeps working with it, because there's so much more you can do with it. And now, another thing that Wargroove really shines with is the difficulty options. There's 4 presets, so you can go easy, medium, and normal. There's also an option for people who only want to see the story with no challenge, which works really well if you want to do that. It takes the enemy's damage down to 10%, which means you're definitely going to win. And honestly, I wish all games had great difficulty options like this. Don't worry, elitists or completionists. You are limited to less stars or ranking if you take the easier ways out. So if you want to master the game, you can easily show, hey, getting 3 stars on everything means you fought it on at least the medium difficulty. Getting the S rank requires playing it on at least the default. So that's all available there. But it's more accessible for the game. So kudos to Chucklefish for making Wargroove a better game for these difficulty options. And I'll be honest, I actually did switch to medium and easy at a couple points because, well, the game does have a really decent challenge. A couple maps are decently hard, not insanely hard, but there's definitely difficulty spikes. And losing a single mission after an hour of playtime really stunk. But doing the same thing 3 times in a row with one bad move was awful. Now, there is a checkpoint system that I didn't end up using because I was going for S ranks and more if you want to play that way. Sadly, there's no undo move like Into the Breach or an undo turn system. So if you do want to use the checkpoints or you want to do anything like that, it is a manual process, unfortunately. So a couple more minor things though with the game. First off, I want to call out the control scheme, which is great. You can actually use a mouse on this game, and it's really solid. You only need the 2 buttons. You don't even need a keyboard to play with it. So 2 mouse buttons will get you everything. I played with the controller, though, and the range units sometimes aren't always intuitive. For most other units, I could just move them next to the enemy and immediately attack them by mousing over them. For a range unit, you're supposed to choose where they're going to move to and then choose who they're going to attack. All of the units work as you expect. They're the ones that just kind of annoyed me more than once. Enemy AI is a bit easy at times, especially when you save up for a big dragon or a golem barrage, as they don't really know the proper defenses, or even when they do, they can't build it in time. The AI as well will sometimes run away from you when they're weak, which is fine, except for there's a few missions where I had to kill all the enemies, and it was annoying to have to chase them around the map. But all of these are minor complaints. Let me be clear on this. Wargroove is very good. So let's talk about Wargroove overall. I was interested in Wargroove because of how it looked like Advance Wars. What I didn't realize at the time was how similar it was, to the point where I think it is even better than Advance Wars in every way. Wargroove is a really great game, though I did struggle with the final score. I really like Wargroove. I expected it to be perfect, but the thing is, I feel that there's just enough minor problems here that I can't give it a perfect score. The graphics were great, but they do lead to some confusion. The story feels weak, and while I didn't hate it, it's not as strong as maybe it could have been. I know I've tried to excuse it, but the fact is, maybe there's a design that would have worked better here. And finally, the gameplay is top-notch, but there's a few minor little annoyances that they'll pop up, annoy me, or maybe even make a mistake for me and I'll lose a map because of it. But Wargroove is extremely good, and this is the most I've actually struggled with the score. I give Wargroove a 4.5 out of 5. I almost gave this a 4.75 just to add a new score level, but I'm not going to do that. Wargroove is not perfect. But in no way does that mean anyone should not buy this game. This is one of the best games I've played, and honestly, if you're even slightly interested in this, check this out. It's available on almost every platform, and it's so much fun. The style is great, the gameplay is interesting, the difficulty options make it accessible to anyone who wants to see it, and it's just very, very good. I can almost guarantee we'll be talking about it again at the end of this year. And that is Wargroove. I do have to reiterate though, I did receive a copy of this game, but I was intending to pick it up anyways. It didn't affect my review, but I want to make sure that you can be the judge of it. And I do want to thank all my subscribers because I'm sure they are the huge reason that I received a copy. So again, thank you guys. Now, coming up next, I am working on Assassin's Creed Origins, which you can see a preview on my channel, but I want to go back to the indies once more. I talked about 5 indie games in the last review. That's not everything I played. I also played a game called Late Shift. It's a, well, movie/FMV game. It's actually kind of similar to Bandersnatch. I'll tell you what I think of this new type of movie meets game next time. And thanks for watching my whole review. If you got this far, consider subscribing and joining the Hyrulean Knights. Let's make our way to 300 subscribers. I think we're like within 10 right now. So leave a like or comment if you've enjoyed this review. And until next time, Knights, I'm King Link, and thank you for watching.